because it's a lot less difficult to track. Today's announcement of 21 arrests and charges is the disruption of over $300 million of laundered money. It's identified hundreds of victims, and it's just the beginning of this law enforcement effort. I want to congratulate our partners who stand with us today for their outstanding work. The congrats really goes to the guys on the ground doing all the work, that they're spending their nights and days and mornings investigating these crimes and going after these cowardly thieves. And right now I'd like to turn it over to Resident Agent in Charge, William Moore, the Dallas Field Office of the United States.
Lurking in cyberspace, but are instead being identified and apprehended through the trusted investigative work and leading-edge technology. Postal inspectors have a long history of investigating fraud. Our mission includes protecting the American public, but specifically, as been mentioned, our elderly, and I also want to mention our veterans as well. We trust the announcement of these arrests will bring some closure to the many victims who are exploited by this group, and sends a message to those who might attempt to do the same. And finally, a reminder to those who are listening or watching today, beware. Beware of questionable financial opportunities. Prevention is critical, not only with each of us, but our loved ones as well. Protecting yourself and those you care about is one of the best investments you can make. I want to thank the Eastern District again, Eastern District of Texas with the U.S. Attorney's Office, the assistant U.S. attorneys who prosecuted this case, and also the agents as well, with the Inspection Service and with Secret Service. Our partnerships and collaboration are a force multiplier in protecting the innocent and identifying individuals who victimize the vulnerable. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom, and if you want to ask any questions, we're glad to answer what we can. Again, it's just the beginning of this operation, so there's things probably we will not be able to answer, but we're glad to answer what we can.
If you could tell us why it is these cases will be prosecuted in the Eastern District.
Well, the team you see behind me covers the Tyler Division of the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Texas. And so they're the ones who started this investigation, and that's why they're being prosecuted here.
And is there a particular reason that this area was chosen for this operation?
Other than good agents and a good AUSA, they were just aggressive and saw a problem, and they addressed it by initiating this investigation.
Where were the people who were charged based? Were their operations based here or somewhere else?
Anything you want to?
Just like our victims, the perpetrators of these crimes are based on the United States and internationally. So in this case, we have defendants ranging from California to Virginia, from Florida all the way up to Montana. So it really runs the gamut. But no matter where they are, these agents will locate them, and the investigations will find out what they've been involved in bringing to justice.
Is there a common thread in any of these cases that you see kind of this reoccurring factor involved?
I think much of what Mr. Featherston and Mr. Joyce spoke to, typically many of these scams target vulnerable, elderly, folks that are down on their luck financially, looking for something. If it's too good to be true, typically is. So that many of those folks have their guard down and fall into these schemes and become victims.
What advice do you have for the public, especially the elderly, to prevent them from falling into these scams?
The advice would be for family members, for friends and neighbors, to have the discussion with your elderly friends, your family members. Have this discussion with them about this problem. Look up things on YouTube and show interviews. And I'll tell you one great one. If you look up there's one on Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil does a great interview with a woman who thought she was in love with a guy in a foreign country. And she had a picture of him, and man, she was in love with him. Next thing you know, that guy came out from the curtain, but it wasn't the guy, right? It was a scam. And so share that information with the potential victims that you know of. And when things seem too good, they probably are, probably not true. And so that's, again, we can't emphasize enough, and we were just discussing how can we get this message out more. And of course, the media is the way to do that, right? We need more help in keeping people from becoming victims because we're seeing it every day. I can't tell you how many sad stories that we hear every day of somebody who's lost every dime to these scams. And most of the time we can't do anything about it because these investigations takes time, manpower, money, and most of the time we can't get these criminals, these thieves from in the foreign country and drag them back to the United States. They're very difficult investigations, and so it's much easier to prevent it than it is to try to investigate it.
Yes, and so what's next for Operation Crypto Runner since this is just the beginning?
Sure. We have a lot more work to do, for sure. We have a lot more leads followed, and in these cases, bringing a lot of data, a lot of information to sift through, so we can continue to do that. And I'm confident that we'll be talking a lot more about this case for quite a while.
If I could also point out that when that romance scam thief in that foreign country reaches out to Grandma One, well, he's also reaching out to 500 more, right? And so you're just waiting for that one hook in the water to be bitten, right? And so they will have, one guy will target hundreds of victims. And so that's why it's so prolific. That's why we're seeing so much of this. And so, and the more the media can help us get this message out, the fewer victims we're going to have.
I was going to ask kind of a similar question to what I asked earlier, but about these 21 individuals. Who are these people? Is there kind of a common profile for the type of person who commits this crime?
Other than cowardly thief, and again, there's a multi-dimension of this process, right? Nathaniel, if you could kind of give a hypothetical of how the money works.
Sure, I mean, they're opportunists, they're intelligent people. So the frauds are usually perpetrated from overseas, from any number of countries in the world. Some that you're probably familiar with, others that surprise you that the frauds are perpetrated from those companies. But what they need is they need partners. They need people in the United States that are like-minded that will help them move that money outside of the United States. Because our banking systems have developed to the point where if a victim, whether it's an elderly victim or an investor victim of middle age, tries to send money overseas, a lot of money overseas, the banks will often flag that, will ask their customer questions, and will probably stop that transaction. But if they're sending it to another person in the United States, a person who's set up bank accounts in the names of businesses, which is something that they often do, because those accounts can receive money in a way that's not as suspicious as a person's individual account receiving money, then they can collect that money, and then they can send that overseas once it's converted into cryptocurrency. So I think, to answer your question directly, the profile is a person that's relatively sophisticated, that's willing to engage with foreign fraudsters and act as a service to them to facilitate these fraud schemes and take money in the process. They're going to get a percentage, they're going to get a cut of that, but they're performing a valuable service, and that is helping facilitate the transfer of those funds from our victims in the United States to the foreign actors overseas.
I think one thing also to be aware of, if you know someone who is going and buying gift cards, multiple gift cards, and then mailing those off, that's a clue, right? There are certain signs that you can see when somebody's becoming a money mule, when they're, you want to talk about that, Nathaniel, on the signs that mules will, and their tools they use?
Sure, I mean, if you look at the release, it may surprise you that some of these defendants in our case are rather elderly themselves. I think the oldest one is probably 75 years old. Some of these money mules and money launderers were once upon a time a victim. I can point you to Zenobia Walker. Once upon a time, she was a victim. But she became trusted by her foreign counterpart to the point that she was used as a person that would launder money on behalf, transmit money on behalf of her foreign counterparts. And so the profile for that is someone that may have been a victim before, not always, but someone that's reliable, that doesn't steal from their foreign counterpart, that has the ability to open bank accounts, that has the ability to break up transactions and to follow directions. And so essentially, the foreign fraudsters, they're profiling their victims, and they're looking for people that they can develop into money launderers here in the United States. And we have a lot of tools to address those. You'll see in the indictments that we brought money laundering charges. We also brought unlicensed money transmitting charges under 1960. It's another charge that we can use to address this problem of people operating outside of the traditional financial space. They're really acting as banks to transmit money on behalf of foreign actors.
One thing I'd like to add to, was mentioned with visiting with our, if you're a caretaker, a family member, but visiting with our elderly, look at their technology as well. Text messages, the emails they get, very important. A lot of the solicitations will start that way. People still receive through the mail at times. They'll receive solicitations that way too, fraudulent solicitations. But being able to help them with that, because they click the wrong button, and then next thing you know, that just opens up a whole new world for the not only for the person overseas I've been talking about, but the mule here, and then it just keeps snowballing. The other thing too, watch the elderly if they try to have a lot of cash and they want to get access to a lot of cash. What we see is we'll have individuals, our elderly citizens, they'll go to a post office, and they'll take $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 and put it in a express mail envelope and ship it off. Well, who puts that much cash in an envelope to ship it off for a legitimate, situation? So that is something we're very thankful. We have a lot of alert employees, and we get calls on that frequently throughout the U.S. when that happens as well. But that's something, another sign to be cautious of if you're having that conversation or you're involved in someone that's elderly, and help save their money and them from them being a victim. Most
of these scammers will also tell their victims, don't tell anyone. they want to operate in that secrecy and said, well, if you tell anyone, then they're going to stop you from helping me, and we're in love, so therefore, please, they're going to try to stop us from having a future together. We see that it's a very common part of the scam, is they try to get their victims to keep everything in secret. And so that's being alert family member, being alert neighbor. When they start seeing this sort of covert activity, then that's usually a clue that something's going on.
Can I add to that? Sure. I think you made me think of a very, very important point. I think for many years, our office has taken a leading role with these agencies in protecting our children, right? We've taken steps to protect our children with social media, with internet usage, and monitor the kind of people that they're talking to and the kind of people that they have access to. And my advice to most parents is don't let your kid on social media or use a phone unless you know who they're talking to. And so you wouldn't let your kids talk to people that you don't know and give them access into your kid's life. And I think we need to take a similar perspective when it comes to our elderly relatives, who, of course, they're more sophisticated than our children, but many of them are lonely. They want someone to talk to. And if somebody on the other end of that social media application or email or phone is willing to talk to them all day when they feel like their relatives are busy working or busy in school, then they may talk to them. And they may become familiar with them and be willing to share money with them and do things on their behalf, send money on their behalf. And next thing you know, they've got them, like Britt said, hooked. And we've heard many sad stories about elderly victims who have lost everything they had. We hear those sad stories every day. So maybe it's something we should think of about how we protect our children. Let's also think about how to help protect and put up safeguards for our elderly relatives too.
All right, I think that concludes our press conference. Thank y'all very much. Appreciate it.
If anybody has any questions or wants to do one-on-one, just let me know. So we're good? You're good? Okay. Thank you. And I think one thing they pointed out that I want to emphasize is the media is as much a partner in this as our law enforcement, because the elderly trust you. You are in their living room every night, they see you, they know you, and they're going to believe their reporter, their favorite reporter, before they're going to believe a federal officer. So, we need you guys. We need y'all to get the word out.
If you guys would mind just going down and saying your name so we know who you are, and we can correctly give you the title at the bottom of the screen. We
Sure.
can start with you.
Yeah, I'm Nathaniel Comerfeld.
Frank Owen.
William Mack.
Britt Featherston.
Thomas Noyes.
Bill Smart.
Mary Ann Cosby.
Thank you.
All right, thank y'all so much.